Welcome everyone to Live from Our Living Room, hosted by Dubuque Symphony Orchestra from my basement. My name is Allen Cordingley, I'm a saxophonist, and first of all, I hope that all of you are safe and your families are safe and healthy during these trying times. And I want to thank Dubuque Symphony for asking me to do this. I am not Matthew Coley, I don't have as nice of glasses or hair. But anyway, I have a performance, I have a couple of pieces ready for you that feature the saxophone. I'd like to start with the bigger saxophone. Oh, and I think I forgot, there's a way to donate to Dubuque Symphony on Facebook. It should be in the messages, it should be pretty easy. If you have any questions, put them up in the comments. I'll also be answering any questions that you guys might have during the performance. I'd like to thank Dubuque Symphony for the shortest commute ever, just down the old stairs. This first piece I'm going to play was originally written for alto saxophone by Herbert Cuff. It's a great piece of music, and I've actually coached quite a few students now playing it on the baritone saxophone. The baritone saxophone has one of the lower voices. There are bigger saxophones, but it's the biggest standard saxophone, and I think it matches this piece super well. It's in 3 parts. There's an introduction, a dance, and a furioso. Fittingly, it is called Introduction, Dance, and Furioso. Introduction, Dance and Furioso. Baritone saxophone is one of my favorite to play. I think it fits my height. I kind of make it look like maybe a tenor. I'm going to check in quick with my lovely wife to see if there's any questions so far. No questions so far, so we're going to keep trucking. Next is from French composer Tomasi, Henry Tomasi, and he wrote Evocations, which is a 4-movement solo work for oboe, or English horn, or alto saxophone. This is none of those, but I think it fits really well. In fact, what I'd like to do is hear this sometime on the English horn, because I think it's a really great piece. I'm only going to play the first movement, which is Peruvian. It kind of has 2 parts to it. It has, you'll hear this thing that sounds kind of like a distant drum, and then a voice that kind of sounds like this mourning. So it's kind of a sad song, but very sad piece of music, excuse me, but very lyrical. And I think it shows that like voice-like quality of the baritone saxophone. This is Evocations, Peruvian, by Henry Tomasi. First movement, Evocations, Henry Tomasi on the baritone saxophone. I'd like to hear one of my oboe English horn colleagues play this on English horn. I think it would sound fantastic. Also, shout out to all the musicians. I miss playing with you guys. I hope you all are safe. I hope that you're finding some good practice times. One of the big reasons I'm playing from my basement is I love the sound down here. And upstairs, it just sounds like you're in a giant bathroom. Any questions?
We do have a few questions.
Cool.
Okay, so question from Corey Mackey. What is the name of your Barry sax?
It's pretty funny. It's from Corey Mackey, who actually gifted me with that awesome piece of art over there. Also, if you saw my new profile picture, that table that the baritone saxophone is sitting on is our prize table that Corey handcrafted himself. In fact, if you ask me for it, I'll put a nice picture of it up. I did help. Just basically lifted stuff and said things like, "Are you sure you want to do it that way?" The name of my baritone saxophone is Cletus. It's kind of cool that came from Corey Mackey because there's a bunch of things. If you get really close to this instrument, you'll notice some scratches. And I always thought, man, it's beat up. It belonged to Cascade High School for like 30 years, but it's still working so well. So he needs a name like Cletus. So the name is Cletus. Thank you, Corey. Any other questions?
We do have a couple other questions from Simon and Violet. Uncle Alan, hi. What is your favorite piece to play?
Oh, that's awesome to have family on and nieces and nephews asking me great questions from across the states. What's my favorite piece to play? Any of them. I really do like to play anything in the concert saxophone repertoire, jazz saxophone repertoire. I love playing in rock bands, orchestras, obviously. And I love just playing the saxophone. In fact, sometimes that actually holds me back in my musicianship because I can't pick one to really put all my energy into. So I try to do a little bit of everything.
One more question, and then we'll do the other ones later. But Danny Rowland asked, is that what tune Crazy Train was based on?
I
think the one you just played.
The one I just played? Yes, Crazy Train was based off of that. No, I'm just kidding. But it does sound like that, right? That's a great question from our low brass professor, Dr. Danny Rowland. Shout out to my Platteville colleagues, too. I miss you guys, and I'm very happy to be playing music. It's so weird to be somewhat dressed up and nervous. That's the coolest thing about this. So thank you, Dubuque Symphony. Please support that awesome organization. All right, the next piece I'm going to play for you is one of my all-time favorite of the early contemporary solo works for saxophone. I apologize, some of my colleagues have heard me play this quite a bit. It's by Japanese saxophonist and composer Ryu Noda. It's called Phoenix. And if you think about that mythological creature, the phoenix bird, it's very much how we're living right now. There's basically, you're kind of on your own a lot, and you have all this power, you're super graceful. And in this piece, you can hear that grace throughout. And then every once in a while, there might be some type of fight. And then at the end, maybe the phoenix falls. And then from the ashes, another phoenix is born. So here is Ryu Noda's Phoenix. Phoenix, Ryu, and Noda. Any other
We
questions?
do have some questions for you.
Great.
All right, so a couple people have asked how many instruments you play, and then tied in with that, somebody asked how long you've been playing the saxophone.
Saxophone is up somewhere near 30 years, which blows my mind. I started on piano, and my lovely wife, how about you meet my lovely wife really quick? She's the one reading these questions. She's also your registered dietitian from Hy-Vee.
Hello.
This is AB.
Hi.
So, and she is awesome. Contact her if you have any of those things. She's also doing a lot of new videos on nutrition and stuff like that. So I answered what I started with. I also do play flute, clarinet, and saxophone, but saxophone's my main instrument, obviously. Other questions?
Yes. Do you find that modern horn arrangements are influenced by older orchestral pieces of music?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Read that one more time so I can have another chance to think just a little more about that.
Okay. The question is, do you find modern horn arrangements are influenced by older orchestral pieces of music?
Oh, absolutely. It has to be, right? Because it's like there wouldn't be a piece like this without a piece like Rite of Spring, right? There wouldn't be a piece like this with some of the things that Ravel did. And then well, since you said orchestral, that makes so much sense. But like musicians, I teach a history of rock class, and you wouldn't have the Stones without the Beatles. You wouldn't have Led Zeppelin without the Stones, without the Beatles. And so it's the same thing with these musicians, because Noda grew up in Japan, but then he did some studying at Northwestern. So he's influenced by all the music earlier. And just what's so nice about living in a contemporary time is you can find music that is inspired by early works, late works, music that tries to be completely original, but absolutely it's inspired by especially the most famous works, and probably starting back with Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, and earlier. Any others?
That's it for now.
All right. So I do believe I just want to do a time check to make sure. What time is it?
It's about 20 after.
20 after. So I have another piece to play for you. This is another one of my favorites. If you were lucky enough, like I was, one of my favorite performances ever was playing Escapades with Dubuque Symphony. I was so happy that Maestro and Trilogator asked to play that piece. And then Mark and the awesome staff at Dubuque Symphony, they've always been so kind to me, but I was like, oh, I get to be the person standing up front. It was the most nervous I've ever been in my life. But I actually planned this little encore it's a really cool piece by Victor Marasco, another saxophonist that plays, he's more of I wouldn't say more of a jazz player, but he plays both styles. And he wrote this piece called Blue Caprice and dedicated it to Phil Woods. And what he did with this piece is really cool. He basically pretended like he was writing this solo piece like Bach would for the violin. but gave it sort of jazz language. There's a lot of blues scales, licks in there that a lot of true jazz musicians or like the really great players try to stay away from now, but it's kind of fun to hear those notes in like a violin style. And also it really does transition from playing a classical style to a jazz style. So this is my last piece, but I will answer a couple of questions after that. Thank you. Please check out all the other musicians. I know Matthew is going to be on there along with some of those other fine musicians from the Dubuque Symphony who I miss so much. And here is Victor Marasco's Blue Caprice. Blue Caprice, Victor Marasco. Questions?
Couple more.
Couple more.
Okay. If you could take a piece played by any other instrument and play it on saxophone, what would you choose?
I have taken plenty of pieces from other instruments. In fact, I told myself not to tonight, but one of my favorite pieces to play on unaccompanied baritone saxophone is the C.P. Ebach Flute Sonata. Another one that I've stolen that I was a little bit shy to play tonight since I found out yesterday, but is Paganini Caprese number 24. I love playing that. It's always going to sound better on a violin, but it is great music to play, and it's great for your hands, and it's awesome music. Any other questions?
Matt Robley wants to know when your CD will be released.
It's funny that Matt Robley is a former student of mine, the band director at Wisconsin Dells, a good friend of mine too. And it's interesting that he asks that because I've always tried to find what should I be recording. So I think what's going to happen over the next couple of years, and you guys can all hold me to it, is instead of doing like an album, I think what I'm going to do is put together a website and try to have as many live performances on there too, because that's it's what I end up doing a lot more than recording albums. But thank you for that question.
There is a request for the Saints Go Marching In. I'm not sure if you know that one off the top of your head.
Yeah, the requests, maybe let's do that let's say requests for the next time, but I love that.
Kaylee Sparks asked, what advice would you give aspiring musicians?
Oh, Kaylee Sparks, a senior that's about to give her recital. We're hoping for, just watch my Facebook page. We're going to do a live broadcast of her recital. She's a fantastic musician that is finishing up her senior year at UW-Platteville. She's going to be student teaching in Oshkosh, and she's going to be a teacher. But and Kaylee knows this too, it's like, if you love this and you want to do it, that's the first reason. It has to burn super hot in your heart and soul. You have to want to do it. Then as soon as you can, and I wish I would have done this younger, as soon as you can, you need to get serious about how you practice. Not necessarily how much early on, but it's like how. It's like always be fixing stuff, because I still have so many bad habits that I would like to break, that I'm trying to break, and I hope to break before I retire. Thanks for that question, Kaylee.
I think that's it for questions.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I'd like to thank Mark and his awesome staff at Dubuque Symphony Orchestra. I'd like to thank Maestro William Intriligator. And on behalf of them, I just, stay safe, stay healthy. I can't wait to watch more of these, post videos of music. If you have any more questions, just friend me on Facebook or send an email to UW-Platteville. Band directors, send all of your students to UW-Platteville. It's cost effective, and you get to study with some amazing musicians, and go to every single Dubuque Symphony concert ever, and take 700 of your friends. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.